Dr. Vani Moodley, Ayurvedic Wellness, subtitled The Doctor is In. This is episode 103 on Alternative Health Tools podcast. And your host, Lisa Victoria, talks with Dr. Vani Moodley, an Ayurvedic practitioner based in England. She provides a fascinating overview of this holistic healing practice, which is rooted in ancient Indian wisdom and complements modern Western medicine. I now bring you Dr. Vani Moodley on Ayurvedic Wellness, along with your host, Lisa Victoria.
Welcome to Alternative Health Tools podcast, and today we are talking about Ayurvedic for healthcare for curative, longevity and preventative. And today I am joined by a wonderful guest, Dr. Vani Moodley, who is an Ayurvedic doctor. I'm Lisa Victoria and I am your co-host for Alternative Health Tools podcast. Welcome, Dr. Vani. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. I've met you in person, I've worked with you, and for our listeners out there who can't see Dr. Vani, she's such an angelic, warm, lovely lady, and I'm so excited for this podcast today. So welcome, Dr. Vani. Would you like to share with us how you became an Ayurvedic doctor and why you love it so much? And then we'll get into some more of the content in the show.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for that introduction. And it's wonderful to be on your podcast this morning. I started off as a scientist and worked in the pharmaceutical industry for many, many years. And until it became a bit too much, where I worked as a research scientist. And I worked in recalls where we were getting to work on medicines that were having drastic side effects on patients. And I just realized at that time, because the project I was working on was a medicine that was used for acne, and the side effects were drastic on mental health, where youngsters were falling off buildings and a lot of them were suicidal. So I just sat back and I realized, am I doing the right thing for humanity? And the company,
so it was a bit of a light bulb moment for you, was it?
Definitely. So I took, the company actually moved to Switzerland, and I decided to take a year out just to find myself and just to really find the true purpose in my life. And, like the universe responds to whatever you want. This Middlesex University in London started offering a degree in Ayurvedic medicine, and I applied and I started the whole journey. But that is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why I moved from being a scientist to study Ayurveda, because I just realized my great-grandfather was an Ayurvedic doctor in India. And I thought it must have, he was so popular and he helped so many people. And I thought there must be something good about the science or this certain form of medicine. And also I had a daughter who was very asthmatic, and we were in A&E every month. And we took her to India and we visited an Ayurvedic doctor, and within 3 months she was cured of asthma. And
that's amazing, isn't it?
Exactly. And I thought, there must be something really special about herbs and nature. And I think that was the driving force to me registering for a degree. And yes, that's my journey into Ayurvedic medicine.
And the rest is history, and you're just helping so many people now.
Exactly. It's just, I think it's because it resonates with everyone, and it's so specific, and the treatments are so tailor-made that it just works. And also, we all have this healing potential, this innate healing potential within us. And I think Ayurveda just taps into that healing potential. And
the mind and the body are so connected, aren't they? And they're so powerful, like you say, at being able to self-heal. It's when we give ourselves that space and that time to listen to what we need, and then seek the appropriate help, the professional, to take us on that journey and help us heal.
Exactly. Because Ayurveda focuses on the gut-brain connection. So, it's a very holistic form of treatment where we look at your mental state of health and, the whole body that's broken up into the different elements. So we also look at how the universe can influence the whole state of health, because you're a microcosm of the macrocosm. So that is, I think, the underlying thing behind the whole Ayurvedic system of medicine.
Yeah. And my coach once said to me, you're part of the bigger universe just pretending to be Lisa. And I thought, wow, that's quite mind-blowing, really, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, when you start thinking about microcosms and macrocosms, it gets quite mind-blowing, doesn't it?
It does. That's a whole topic on its own. And we probably could go on for hours, just talking about the microcosm and macrocosm.
Wow, thank you for sharing your journey and your story. And I love what you said there about, kind of helping and supporting people. And there must be something in it. Your great-grandfather did it. And, your daughter had, the asthma. So going to see an Ayurvedic doctor, there was something in it. It really worked. And I love the fact that you said you kind of took some time out to think about your purpose and how you wanted to help people. And I like the connection with your ancestors. It's come down the tree, hasn't it? So it's part of who you are, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. So, where should we start? Should we think about what Ayurveda is? Because I guess some of our listeners out there might not even know, or they might have dabbled with it or read a little bit. So shall we just introduce it and go right back to basics and make sure we get the foundations in place?
Yes, absolutely, Lisa. So Ayurveda is made up of two words, Ayur, which means life, and Veda, which means science. So Ayurveda is actually the science of life, or the study of the science of life. And Ayurveda has no author. So it dates back to thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so Ayurveda has originated from these rishis or sages that were in deep meditation on the foothills of the Himalaya mountain ranges many, many thousands of years ago. And they received messages. So you could call it, from the higher consciousness, you could call it God, you could call it the universe, but they were receiving these messages. And they all sat down and they compared all the messages they were getting, and it followed a sequence. And eventually they started setting up little schools where they passed on this knowledge. And that's how it eventually got passed on from teachers to students, from the sages to students. And these students set up their little colleges or under trees, with the teachers on a little rock and the children on the ground, and learning all this knowledge and practicing it. And it covered everything. It covered this knowledge. The Vedas is so vast. So it covers Ayurveda, which is a system of medicine. It covers every single plant in the universe, and the medicinal properties and benefits of these plants. It covers rituals. It covers treatments. It covers forms of worship. It covers mathematics, Vedic mathematics, which I've learned myself, and you could get the square root of 5967832 in 10 seconds. So Vedic mathematics it's still practiced in India very much. And
amazing.
It covered science, physics, where it looked at the structure of the atom and, subatomic particles, which they called different names. It spoke about theory of relativity, which is the Lokya Samya theory. So all that came from the Vedas. And it was only until 5,000 years ago that they started recording and putting this into books, scrolls. And from the scrolls, I think 700 BC, where some of them started recording. It even covered surgery. And the author of the text on surgery, his name is Sushruta, and this text is still used by medical students when they are studying surgery. It's still being used at present. So
wow!
That's
so if there's any
amazing.
medical students out there that want to read that, can they access that book? Can we put that in the show notes?
Yes, definitely. It's, it
so
covers.
We'll take a link to that for any medical students out there.
Mm-hmm. And Sushruta was the father of surgery. So he spoke about instruments that are used in surgery. He spoke about the anatomy and how certain instruments can be used. And, he spoke about the whole, all the organs and how they're structured, and a lot of spiritual science behind the whole structure of the human body. Just not the way we look at it now. It's just this whole, combination of organs and cells, but it's linked. There's a whole spiritual aspect to the whole structure of the human body. And this is what, and so Ayurveda, the whole, if we go back to just the book on Ayurveda itself, from the Vedas. So Ayurveda, it goes back to the whole, theory of creation. In the Western science it's called the Big Bang. But in Ayurveda, we said that everything started from the sound of Om. And I'm sure you're familiar with the sound of Om. Very auspicious sound, very soothing. We use it during meditation. We use it during the breathing processes that we teach. So from Om came the 5 elements. And if you look at the 5 elements, and you look at the density, you look at space, there's absolutely nothing in space, so it's the lightest. And then you get air, which has got a few molecules. And then you find these molecules in air that rub against each other and it starts creating friction. And you get fire. And from fire, you get water. And from water, you get the heaviest of these elements, which is earth. And so these 5 elements, like they're present in the universe and they're present in your body, is what makes up your entire body. You're composed of the 5 elements. And these 5 elements, so in Ayurveda, the 5 elements have actually the space and the air has formed the Vata, or the air dosha, or humor or energy, the air, which is the lightest. And then we have fire, which is very, very powerful. So it's on its own as the fire element. And then you have water and earth that is combined to form the earth, which is the heaviest. Right. And so this is the basis of our diagnosis and our prescription, and the whole treatment is based on these 3 doshas.
So what you've just described there are the 3 doshas, and that's Vata, Pitta and Kapha, is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
but you were saying Pitta's on its own as a fire, whereas the Vata is combined of 2 and the Kapha's combined of 2.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. Amazing.
It is. So, this is, so like I said, everything in Ayurveda is based on the 3 doshas, and also, during consultation. So we use, 3 diagnostic tools to actually, there's more. Sometimes I use 5 because 3 may not work for me during a consultation. So we use the pulse analysis, and from the pulse analysis, we'd be able to pick up whether we pick up 2 doshas. So we'll pick up your prakriti, which is your birth dosha, and we pick up your vikruti, which is the dosha that you're reading right now. Yes. And the difference between the 2 is the definition of disease. So Ayurveda, the purpose of Ayurveda is to bring you back to your genetic or your original makeup. So
and when we talk about disease, it's dis-ease in the body or the mind, isn't it? So there's an uneasiness. So that's what you're saying there, is we have a birth dosha, and then we have a dosha that we're kind of living at the minute, and that's our variation away from our birth dosha, and that is the definition of disease. So disease in the body where we've deviated from our birth dosha. Is that correct?
Yes, and that is brought about by environmental influences, and it also mainly brought about by diet and our lifestyle and stress, and everything that we're going through at the moment around the world very much influences the doshas, and this is when they get imbalanced. And this is the imbalance. It's almost like you have a cup of tea, and when the cup overflows, this overflow has to manifest in some way or the other, and it manifests as dis-ease or imbalances within the body.
And that's such a lovely analogy, isn't it? It's the cup overflowing. It's just bursting, and it's got nowhere to go. It can't contain it anymore. And I like what you said there about balancing them back to our birth dosha. It's quite pertinent at the minute, isn't it, with what's been going on. This podcast is being recorded in amongst the midst of, the COVID-19. And there's a lot of people around the world who have been quite stressed, environmental changes, things like that. And then obviously the impact on the nutrition as well, because I get quite a lot of clients that have said, I want to lose weight. I've put a lot of weight on during lockdown. And it's that whole mind-body connection, isn't it? Because when people are stressed, they tend to comfort eat, or just because they're working from home, the fridge is really accessible. They've just been snacking all day long. So what we're saying there is people can become out of balance, and particularly when there's stressful times and a lot going on.
Yes, definitely. So, we know that the reason of people overeating, and it's all this doshic imbalance at the moment. It's the mind controlling the body, and it's the gut controlling the mind, and this gut-brain connection that's so prevalent at the moment. And that automatically impacts immunity. When the doshas are not like they should be, this is when immunity is compromised as well. And this is when you're more prone to many kinds of problems or pathogens and things like that at the moment.
And it's that domino effect, isn't it?
It is.
Quite a lot of people, when I speak to them, they say, I've got no energy. And it's, as someone who's suffered from chronic fatigue, I know what it's like to have no energy. I've been that person that's been bedridden, and it becomes your new norm. So now I'd say I've got a lot of energy, but I know I can have more energy. And I know the only thing that's holding me back is that mind-body connection and becoming the kind of healthiest, happiest version of myself. And that's why I've been doing some work with you, Dr. Vani, and it's been fantastic. You've been so supportive. But it's very true, isn't it? It's taking a step back and asking yourself, well, is this me at my healthiest, happiest self? Or have I just accepted this as my new norm? Because I guess there's probably quite a lot of people out there who probably think, well, maybe I'm fine. Maybe my doshas are in balance. But actually, it's not just physical symptoms showing up, is it? There's other types of symptoms. So is it worth touching on that to kind of, say what types of ways we can learn that our doshas are out of balance? What types of things could we be looking for as individuals, and would you be looking for as a doctor?
Right. So, like I said, Lisa, the diagnostic tools that we use is the pulse, and then we use the tongue, because the tongue is the reverse of the human body. So, the tongue tells us a lot about the amount of toxicity. It tells us about organ health. It tells us about the gut. So it's an amazing organ. And then we use a bit of iridology as well, where segments of the iris corresponds to certain organs. We also use facial analysis, because you'd be able to pick up diseases or imbalances. And also, the way a person looks could tell us a lot about the mental health as well. The face itself tells us about the mental health of a particular person. And also just general body structure and, skin tone, all of that. So we use all of that together in a consultation. And so these doshas, for example, if vata is imbalanced in a particular person, it's going to manifest in some of the worst debilitating diseases like arthritis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, constipation, so many problems. Those are vata diseases, because vata is the lightest. And so vata would, manifest in the bones and certain particular parts of the body where vata is rife, like the colon, and then everything starts in the colon. So that's why we say that vata is the chief of all diseases. So if we get a patient that we're picking up a vata and a pitta on a pulse analysis, we're more likely to treat the vata first, because vata, like I said, it's the worst kind of imbalance to have. And then you have the pitta imbalance, which would create acid reflux. And now pitta is linked to cancer. So, we need to look at pitta as well and have that under control. It's linked to mental disease as well. It's linked to quite a few neurological problems. And then we have the kapha dosha, which is linked to weight, which is a very large problem in the world at the moment. So weight gain and diseases like diabetes are all linked to imbalance of the kapha dosha. So that should give you an idea of how important it is to keep your doshas in balance.
Really
having the right diet and having the right diet as well.
So are there any early warning signs? Because obviously, it's fantastic that you can look at a person and read their pulse and read their tongue and the iridology and then look at, their facial expressions and things like that. If someone was to think at home, I'm not sure if my doshas are imbalanced, do I need to see someone? What would you recommend to them if they're thinking, well, I feel quite fine, I haven't got arthritis, I'm not overweight, I haven't really got much going on. What would be their starting point to see whether or not they, were imbalanced? Could they look at their tongue? Would that tell them some basics just by looking at the tongue? What would the basics be that they would be looking for, or any early warning signs?
So I think the important thing is to know your dosha. And I know online there are many questionnaires, but it's really not the same as going to an Ayurvedic doctor or practitioner and having your pulse read, because the pulse would pick up, the questionnaire would tell you specifically whether you're Vata, Pitta or Kapha, but you may be 60% Vata and 40% Pitta. So that is very important to know that, because your diet plan would be based on something like that, knowing your dosha. And you'd know when you're imbalanced, because if Vata is out of range, it manifests as migraine, joint pain, loss of memory. And if Pitta is imbalanced, it impacts your metabolism, and the metabolism is linked to brain health, or, so this brain fog that you experience, or this just no drive in you, or just for constant fatigue, that is Pitta. So we look at your Agni, or your metabolism, as you would call it. And then if Kapha is imbalanced, you know that, wow, I'm just gaining these pounds and I don't know what's wrong. I haven't changed my diet. So you need to look at Kapha, because it's definitely that the Kapha element, or the earth element, is totally imbalanced. So those are a few signs or symptoms, that you may look at and want to come for a proper consultation to an Ayurvedic practitioner. And
I can second what you're saying about the online questionnaires, because it is a bit fun, and I did it before I came to see you, but I took it with a pinch of salt, because I thought, well, I'm just answering questions here and it's very generic. And I think I actually did come out of Vata, but then when I came to see you, I was Vata Pitta, wasn't I?
Yes.
So it is about fine-tuning it and making sure that your program's tailored to yourself, rather than that self-diagnosis.
I know.
My question was more leading to, well, if there's someone out there who thinks, well, I'm perfectly fit and healthy, when we're talking about preventative and making sure our doshas are in balance for preventative, I guess it's always great to know what your dosha is and have a consultation anyway. It's not about always preventative, is it? Which is what a lot of people do. They go when they need something to be cured. And actually prevention is obviously better than cure, as we know, don't we?
Absolutely. It's and from an Ayurvedic aspect, the prevention would look at diet, or certain foods that are specific to Vata dosha, or foods that are specific to Pitta dosha or Kapha dosha. So it's eating according to your dosha. It's doing the right kinds of exercises or yoga that's specific to your dosha. So I see a consultation is very tailor-made for the individual. So as a curative, as a preventative, it's really, really good to have a consultation and know exactly what is exactly the dosha, your dosha, and your diet that is specific to your dosha.
And, you talk about curative and preventative, but also you mentioned when we had a chat away from this podcast about longevity as well. And that's really important, isn't it? Because a lot of people are living in the now, which is great. And they're very present, and they're thinking, well, I haven't got anything going on right now, so maybe I don't need to think about my health. But actually, for longevity, it's about putting those building blocks in place now, isn't it? To make sure we live long and healthy rather than long and unhealthy, and we don't have that period of kind of disease and going downhill for a number of years before we pass on. So I think, one of the biggest things in my journey is about that longevity and living as long and as healthy as possible, rather than as long as unhealthy as possible. So that's really important too, isn't it? It's making sure your doshas are in balance to get that longevity.
Yes, definitely, Lisa. And we have, it's a whole I'd say a whole part of Ayurveda that focuses on this longevity or rejuvenation, if you may call it, and it's called Rasayana. And it's absolutely wonderful because if someone has had, example, if someone has had COVID, and post-COVID, you have to go into this Rasayana therapy where we're looking at rejuvenating lung tissue, where we're looking at rejuvenating the body that is. So in any kind of disease that you've had or any kind of imbalance that you've had, once we've prescribed the right medication for you, or the right diet and the right yoga asanas and the right breathing techniques that are all important, the right kind of meditation that you need as a Vata, Pitta, Kapha, because it's as specific as that in Ayurveda. The different meditation and yoga is very specific to the doshas as well. And that's when we very much focus on a Rasayana therapy, which could be 2 or 3 herbs that you'll be having for at least 3 months just to rejuvenate the system. So it's besides bringing it back into balance, it's just giving you that extra bit of health and just improving the oxygen affinity of the body. So knowing that it's a whole rejuvenation therapy that we look at. So that's the beauty of Ayurveda.
I love that rejuvenation because it's impossible to go through life without experiencing something with your health, isn't it? Whether it's a cold or a cough or, a skin irritation or some asthma or some hay fever, most people, well, I don't think I've come across anybody who hasn't had a health concern in their lives, whether it's kind of a minor one or a major one. And it comes back to balancing those doshas again, doesn't it, is what I'm hearing from you. And,
yes.
And making sure that rejuvenation plan's in place. Mm-hmm. So if you have experienced something, then we're kind of looking at it and healing it.
Yes. And like I said, it's very much part of your treatment plan, yes. The rejuvenation. Because with any kind of, even a cold, your body takes a blow. Yes. Because there's just so many organs, involved, the respiratory, and you with fever, you having skin that has to exude all this heat. So it's about rejuvenating, and that is what we focus. Like I said, Ayurveda is very much focused on rejuvenation, and part of this rejuvenation is also very anti-aging. Because it's now a lot of certain doctors are focusing specifically on rejuvenation and linking it up to anti-aging. And there's very much a lot of science now that's going into like the telomeres and, lengthening the telomeres. And there's a lot of research at the moment that's going on with the Rasayana, the rejuvenation therapy, and telomeres in the DNA.
Wow. It's like you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's all encompassing, isn't it? We're talking about plants, we're talking about science, we're talking about spiritual stuff. It's very holistic, isn't it?
It is. It looks at everything, I'd say, it looks at the individual so holistically, from a spiritual aspect, from a scientific aspect. So you're getting the best of both worlds, I'd say.
You're getting a full MOT or a service, aren't you?
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. So when we talk about the doshas and we talk about the positioning in the body, and you touched on, the vatas in the colon, should we talk more a little bit about where the doshas are positioned in the body and how they're formed?
Yes. So, like I said, from the 5 elements, you have the space and air that forms vata, and this is positioned in the colon. So if we're doing any treatment or we're doing any rejuvenation therapies for vata, would focus on the colon. And then you have the pitta dosha, which is focused on your solar plexus or your stomach, the gut. And we'd focus on that, if you're treating pitta. And kapha, or the earth element, is positioned in your chest. So an example is, someone with a lot of mucus production, that's a kapha disorder. And we probably focus on doing treatments specifically focusing on the chest. So this takes me to the 5 cleansing therapies in Ayurveda, which is called the Panchakarma. And these are cleansing and they rejuvenative. So if we're having a very high vata dosha, totally imbalanced vata dosha in a person that comes to us with a particular disease that's specifically vata, then that we're definitely going to be performing enemas with with very warm kinds, medicated oils that are very warm, and using that.
And that's a really important point, isn't it? Because you mentioned oils rather than a water enema. And when we were talking off the podcast again, you mentioned the difference between, there's a lot of enemas out there that use water, and there's a difference to using oils, isn't there, for enemas?
Yes, you need to realize that we have two kinds of toxins that embed themselves in the colon. You have the water-soluble toxins and you have the fat-soluble toxins. So as much as you do colon flushing with water, you're targeting only water-soluble toxins. So the use of warm oils for colon flushing is excellent, because this is the only way you're going to target the fat-soluble toxins. And like I said, the oils will be specific to your condition. It's medicated. There's lots of ingredients that go in there, and these oils would actually hit the colon and try and get rid of the fat-soluble toxins in more.
So don't try this at home without first having a consultation. It's not as easy as just buying a pack off the internet and then doing it yourself, because it's very tailored to an individual, which oils you would use, etc.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like I said, oils are medicated for specific to the condition that you have.
Uh-huh. Wow. So with the cleansing therapy, so that's the first one.
Mm-hmm. And then for the fire element, so if you come to us with a weight problem or a metabolic disorder, or you're suffering from constant acid reflux, definitely we're going to suggest a colon cleanse. And this is between 4 to 7 days, depending on your condition. So severe chronic cases, you're looking at a 7-day detox. And cases, that are also severe, but not extremely severe, we'd look at a 4-day detox. And so we prepared the body. So it's not just taking a laxative and having a cleanse. Ayurveda believes in preparation and preparing the body and because when you have a specific condition, your doshas are like wild horses. They're running all over. So we need to target these wild horses, as to say, the doshas, and bring them to a particular spot. So we need to bring them to the GIT, to the gut. And it takes 3 days so we use ghee. So ghee is very important in Ayurveda, because this is it's an important substance where it has an affinity for the cells, because the structure of ghee, the molecular structure of ghee, is very similar to your phospholipid membrane, and that is why it could penetrate, go through the cell membrane, collect the toxins, and then bring them down to the gut. So this happens for 3 days, where we have increments of 25 ml of ghee. And then by the 4th day, we're expelling. We've collected, the doshas have sort of concentrated in your gut over 3 days. And the 4th day, this is when we expel them. So that's just a bit of, how we do the detox and targeting on the pitta dosha.
And it's really important, isn't it, to mention about the ghee, because like you say, the cell membrane walls, they are oil soluble, aren't they? So water can't get in, and that's the reason why when you go to a doctor's and you've got a viral infection, they won't give you antibiotics, because it's sat within the cell, isn't it? And then the antibiotics are water soluble, so they can't permeate the cell wall. So yes. By using ghee, I love what you said when we spoke the other day. It's about the transporter. It's kind of the key to the cell, isn't it? It unlocks the cell to allow everything in, to pull all the nasties out, or allow the good nutrients to get back into the cell. So ghee's amazing, isn't it, for those sorts of things?
It's used as a vehicle, I'd say.
Yes.
To transport, a quick transport of the medicines, or a medicated ghee like we use for the cleansing. We use the actual medicine, and it combines with the ghee, and it transports it and brings back, collects it. So we use it even post. In part of our treatments, as the treatment plan, as part of your quicker way of the cells collecting or getting the medication. So ghee is really an important thing.
Should people be cooking with ghee as a matter of course?
Well, personally, I only cook in ghee, and my cholesterol is perfect. My family, my husband, all our cholesterol. So there was this whole thing about, ghee would increase your cholesterol, but it's a very clarified form of butter. And I know there are a lot of vegans out there, but things like coconut oil are just as good.
Yeah.
So
but if you're not a vegan, then ghee butter is excellent way to cook. And that whole myth, isn't it, about your cholesterol going up it's a total myth, isn't it?
Total. Because, I'm proof that, with the perfect cholesterol level, despite cooking in ghee and using it to take some of my supplements, Ayurvedic supplements, it hasn't moved in the last, I'd say, 15 years. It's just
That's
the same
amazing.
level. Yes.
So it works. We know it works. You're living proof that it works.
Definitely.
And for our listeners out there, I've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Vani, and she looks a picture of health. She's radiant and lovely figure. Yeah, she's a picture of health completely.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. And so the last therapy that I need to mention is for kapha dosha. The kapha dosha. So that we'd use therapies to target mucus production in the lung, and a lot of those therapies are used for addictions and many other problems. Also with a lot of mental issues, we use the Vamana or the Enemas, which is a therapy in Ayurveda that's specifically used on the chest for kapha.
Wow, and how does that work? Can we share a little bit about that?
The emesis? Oh, yes. Yeah, that's it's a very, I think from all five of the therapies, it's quite an invasive therapy, the emesis, because we prepare you over 7 days with the medication. So you're taking medications, and it's a specific diet, like I said, specific to the condition you have. And on the 7th or 8th day, we'd probably give you a drink that's got salt and honey and the herb that's specific to your condition, and it'll onset emesis, which is vomiting. And it's amazing what you see come out of your chest. For people that have been smokers or people that have had asthma for years and have been on the Pulmicorts and the Bricanyls and things like that, you find, sediments and black and brown garbage coming out of your chest. So it works really, really well.
I remember you saying you get amazing results. It doesn't sound like a particularly pleasant cleanse, but it sounds like an amazing cleanse. If you've had any kind of chest issues in the past, then it's a great one to literally get it off your chest.
It is definitely. And then I think that those are the three. And then the fourth one would be the nasal therapy, which is, warm medicated oils that are being put into your nose. And like I said, the oils would be very specific to your condition. So we use this. So it's called Sarva. It's called in Ayurveda, it's a Sarva Mukha Roga, which means all diseases related to the head. So we use it for acne. We use it for memory loss. We use it for Parkinson's. Everything targeting the head. We use it for any ear problem, eye problem, nerve problems, teeth. We even use it for people that have got toothache. So we're using it for sinus at the moment in the UK, all the allergens, and it works wonders for rhinitis. So that's the nasal therapy. And the last therapy is bloodletting or Rakta Mokshana. So in India, they use leeches that will be put onto your skin. And, it's quite a good therapy, but like I said, also very, very extremely invasive, and it's not used much in the UK. So, we'd rather, let you go and donate blood or go for a blood test, and at least some of the blood is coming out of your system. Especially after the cleansing, it's good to have some blood removed because it kickstarts the liver to produce fresh blood. So that's just the 5 therapies or cleansing therapies in a nutshell. But like I said, it's quite intense, and it's all tailor-made, because you could come to me with a condition and I say, right, Lisa, you just need 3 of the therapies, or you may need 4, where another person may come to me and I'd say, right, you need 5 because we're looking at long-term rejuvenation. So all 5 therapies. And that's why the Panchakarma, or these 5 therapies are so, they're so tailor-made to the individual. And that is why we're getting such good results with early signs of cancer. We could reverse cancer, in early stages of cancer can be reversed using these 5 cleansing therapies.
That's amazing.
Because it's just bringing the body into total balance.
Yeah.
So
it's that rejuvenation, isn't it? Like you say, and balancing back your doshas and becoming that picture of health again, isn't it? And
yes. And
for people out there who are looking for alternative ways rather than taking medication, and I hear so many people on so many different types of medications, and I get people coming to me for the mind coaching, and they've been told to take one medication, but then they're feeling sick with that medication, so then they're given anti-sickness tablets, and then they're given something else to combat that, and they end up on this whole concoction of medication. And actually what we're saying is, by using Ayurveda, we can bring people's doshas back into balance and give that the body and the mind some chance to heal.
Yes, definitely, Lisa, because Ayurveda looks at the root cause of the problem. So going right down to your dosha is looking at the DNA. It's almost like looking at and working from there. So whereas a lot of, I think Western medicine would look at your symptoms specifically and treat your symptoms. Yes. And that's why it becomes the vicious cycle, because you treat the symptoms and then you offset something else. You have to offset something else because those symptoms don't want to be treated with the medication that you're giving them at the moment. It's not specific to their particular dosha. Yeah. So you have something and then, you add another medicine to treat that. And this whole vicious cycle happening, whereas Ayurveda looks at the root cause. And like I said, if you Vata
going
and
back
Pitta,
to the cause, not the symptom.
Yes, definitely not the symptoms only.
Yeah. It's just, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? And it needs to be available to more people so they can take back control of their health. And that's kind of one of the things I'm championing at the minute, because there's a lot of people out there, and I was at the mercy of, the Western kind of way of working when I had my chronic fatigue syndrome, and it was a case of, well, we can't find anything wrong with you when I had my chronic fatigue syndrome in my early 20s, and here's some antidepressants and you're going to end up in a wheelchair. And for me, that wasn't good enough, but I guess for a lot of people out there who don't have any other connections or know of any other options, then that becomes their reality. And what we're saying here is it doesn't have to be. There is a way that we can look to allow you to heal and rejuvenate. And it's so empowering.
Absolutely, Lisa. I totally agree. Because I think, every person in the world is entitled to good health.
Yes.
And like I said before, you have this innate ability to heal, and you just need to tap into it. Because it's an absolute marvel. The human body is an absolute marvel. And I look at, the mind-body connection, and it's from a spiritual aspect. It's just, you all have the ability to heal yourselves. And this is
the one step you need to take is just to reach out to someone like yourself and just say help. and that is it. That's the first step done, isn't it? And then the rest you can support them with on that journey. But unless they take that first step themselves and think that it's possible, then it's never going to happen, is it?
Definitely. You need to take the first step. You need to be serious. Even if you feel you're absolutely healthy, but you want to maintain this good health, this is when Ayurveda comes in, and you have a bit of the rejuvenation therapies or the 5 cleansing therapies that I just mentioned, and, eating according to your dosha. Because I think now, even with veganism, is very popular. But there are certain foods in the vegan diet that are not, and I'm seeing a lot of patients coming in at the moment that's saying, oh, I'm vegan and this is high in protein, but I've got reflux and I've got gas. And we just take out a few of the foods and they're fine after that. So that proves that as much as you want to be vegan and you want to live an absolutely plant-based diet, but there are also certain plants and foods or vegetarian or vegan foods that may not be specific to your particular dosha.
Yeah. Wow. So talking about foods and doshas, are there any particular foods that aggravate doshas, or are there typical ones for different doshas?
Yes, definitely. So if we go back to Vata, and we find how Vata was formed, it's from space and air. So that's the lightest of the dosha. And if I say to you, Lisa, you are 100% Vata. So you'd have these characteristics like the air and space, which is light and dry. So you have those characteristics within you. So the foods that are light and dry are going to aggravate your Vata dosha. So those are foods that you should be avoiding. Similarly, with the Pitta dosha, it's fiery. So if you're going to continue eating foods that are spicy or, pungent or heat-producing, and you're going to end up having lots of problems. So fire element is, like I said, your cup's going to overflow.
Yes.
And similarly with Kapha dosha, if you are Kapha dosha, predominantly Kapha dosha, and you tend to eat sugary foods and fried foods and, lots of dairy, your cup's going to overflow and it's going to manifest as diabetes or weight gain. So you really have to be very careful and eat according to your dosha. And I think this is, it's like almost like a niche in Ayurveda where we target, we can tailor make a whole diet plan, a whole nutritional plan for you. So nutrition is so specific in Ayurveda. It's according to your dosha. Even if you have underlying doshas, like a certain pitta, we take that into account. And that is why food is really, food is medicine. In Ayurveda, we totally believe that.
Yeah. And there's a saying, isn't there? There's a saying, you are what you eat, but then there's another saying, you are what you absorb.
Yes.
And what we're saying here, isn't it, is it's not just about what we eat, because being a Vata, if I eat a lot of salads, I'm not going to be able to metabolize that or absorb it very well, am I? Because they're very cooling foods.
They are.
So what I need to be aware of is what am I actually absorbing, because I'll become what I absorb. So
yes.
It's very pertinent, your diet in your health. And we know, don't we, that most of our health comes from our gut, and that whole gut-brain axis that we're talking about, it needs to be looked at holistically, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Everything starts in the gut, everything. Your digestion, your assimilation, your mental health, all diseases, everything. So your gut is really, really important. It's the center, it's the epicenter of health, I'd say. Because you need to keep that digestive fire, burning correctly. It needs to be nourished correctly for you, because it's that assimilation and that metabolic fire that gives you your mental health, your intelligence, your clarity, the way everything. It's related to your, how elevated how quickly you can become spiritually elevated. All that's related to gut health. So the world is seeing this whole link between the gut-brain connection, between disease, everything else. So it's what Ayurveda has been talking about for many, many, many years, thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, and it's still relevant today. I think, didn't you say you did some research into the science behind it? Was it the ghee? There was something they've been using as medicine for a number of years, and then you went and had a look at the science behind it.
Yes. So my master's, my MSc was based on researching a very popular herb in Ayurveda called triphala. So triphala is tri and phala is fruit. So so it's a combination of three of these really, really wonderful fruits. And the one is the Indian gooseberry, which is very popular, and a lot of them it's high in vitamin C. So it's been ranked as a high rejuvenative in Ayurveda. So it's just because for thousands and thousands of years, and the scriptures spoke about this lovely fruit, and triphala, combining these three fruit and having it, and it was commonly used. And because of my science background, I managed to do an HPLC, so high performance liquid chromatography on triphala. Against standards like vitamin C and gallic acid. And we found that the gallic acid content was much higher than the vitamin C or the ascorbic acid. So that proved that the primary rejuvenative in triphala was gallic acid. And if you look at gallic acid, it has amazing rejuvenative properties, and it helps the cell to rejuvenate, and it fights against so many other pathogens. So because triphala has this gallic acid, that's why it was being used so frequently in Ayurveda. It's a household name in India and in many other homes where triphala is, if all else fails. And I mean, even when I was studying Ayurveda, I remember lecturers said, if all else fails, triphala is there. So it's because of this high content of, it's got lots of. It has lots of other substances like the berberins and the flavonoids and all the lovely high antioxidants that that we do. So I managed to research this and get a proper HPLC analysis of Triphala. So that was absolutely amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, and I'm hoping to do more of this research in the future with Ayurvedic herbs.
You're a very clever lady, Dr. Vani.
Oh no,
very clever lady.
No, I think we all born with this ability to it's just embracing and just being passionate about something, that you could see the results, driving that passion to do something you enjoy.
Yeah, and I love your passion for what you do, and it really does come across. And we've talked about the love for helping people, and it definitely comes across when we speak. So and I know you're doing an amazing job helping lots of people, and I know you'll continue to do that. So it's a wonderful thing that you do. So we've talked about holistic consultations. So when someone typically comes to see you, you would read their pulse, you check their tongue, you'd look into their eyes, you'd look at their physique. And because of the trying times we've been through, I think you said you've been doing some work over Zoom now as well, haven't you?
Yes. So the good thing about Zoom is we can still see the tongue. And also, before the consultations on Zoom, they sent me a lovely close-up picture of the tongue, which is really good because I can zoom, and which is much better than having a face-to-face, because I can't really zoom into your tongue.
Zoom in, yeah.
So we were able to zoom into the pictures of the tongue, and when we talk to you on Zoom, we could look at your facial structure. We could look at ask you to bring your hand close up and look at the palms of your hands and your tone of your skin. So all of that contributes to the diagnosis. So we've been doing a lot of Zoom consultations, and they've been working really, really well, I must say.
That's brilliant. And I think a lot of businesses have been trying going online, haven't they? And I guess it opens you up to more people and helping more people. And if you've tried it and it works, then that's fantastic. And it means now you can help more people across the world rather than just people who are local to you coming into the clinic. So
definitely,
that must be exciting for you too.
It is. We have had quite a few consultations from other countries, and it's really exciting. Although sometimes the time difference, I'm having to get up at 3:00 in the morning. But it's just lovely speaking to people from other parts of the world, and you just realize how diseases are so specific sometimes to certain continents and the way they eat, and it's just amazing to find all this out. And it just proves that this just so verifies what Ayurveda has been saying. People would have from certain continents with different diets, and then attracting certain kinds of disorders in the system. So absolutely, it's just such a learning for me at the moment.
That's amazing. I don't know why, but I feel the need to say to our listeners, check your tongue in the mirror and just have a look at your tongue. And if it should be pink. Is that right, Dr. Vani?
Yes.
It should be pink, and that's a sign of good health. So if it's not, then there's something going on. So that might be something a little bit fun that they can do at home, and just have a look at their tongue and see, whether it's that nice pink colour or whether there's like a coating or there's something going on or cracks. There's lots that you can tell from a tongue, isn't there? But if the first step could be taking a look at their tongue, and if it's not quite as pink as they should be, then they should be booking a consultation to get their doshas back in balance.
Definitely.
Oh. Dr. Vani, it's been such a wonderful, experience to have you on this podcast, and thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being our guest today. I'm sure our listeners will have got so much information out of what you've shared. your knowledge is on another level. You've studied with the best. You've been and worked in hospitals in India, I believe, and through the generations as well, you've picked up so much knowledge. So thank you for sharing just a snippet of that today, because I know we've just touched on the tip of the iceberg. In terms of a message just to wrap up for our listeners, is there anything that you would just like to leave with them?
So just for the listeners, I'd like to just say that I would be starting a tribe. So an Ayurvedic tribe from, where we're trying to get people from around the world, because I know people in different parts of the world that want to know about Ayurveda, and I don't have access to many practitioners or doctors there. So this is a tribe that we would be starting, and we're probably going to be launching it middle of August. And what we're going to be doing from Monday to Friday, you'd be learning every week about a different herb and how you could use it, and how you could use it as a beauty product or a decoction, and what it would target. And so it's quite an introduction, and you could learn a lot about Ayurveda. And all I'd like to say is, nature has given us so much. Nature is just so powerful, and we really need to tap into that power. It's been given to us to use. And I think all of us need to take advantage of that.
That is such a wonderful message, and it's so true, isn't it? But it's knowing how to harness that power and one, knowing it's available, and then two, knowing how to harness it. And I think the tribe you're going to be creating is going to be so exciting, and I'm really excited to be a part of it, Dr. Vani, as well. I can't wait to go on that journey with you, and it's so accessible to people around the world. So I guess if anybody out there who is thinking, wow, I want to be part of this tribe and I want to learn some more, then they can get in contact with you, can't they? And your website is pranawellness.co.uk, and that's PRANA wellness, WELLNESS.co.uk. And also they can email you, can't they, Dr. Vani? And that's Vani, VANI _Moodley, MOODLEY @yahoo.co.uk. And we will put these contact details in the show notes as well, so people can access them. But I'm sure Dr. Vani would love to hear from you all. And if you're interested in being part of her tribe, then I suggest, is it email the best, Dr. Vani, email you to get on the tribe list?
Yes, it's if you go to Prana Wellness on Facebook, the Facebook page, it would give you all the information of when we're launching the tribe. So just follow Prana Wellness on Facebook as well for more information.
Prana Wellness on Facebook. Yes. And you've got so much information on Facebook as well. There's lots of interesting articles and posts that you've put on there as well. So that's another great source for people. It's been an absolute pleasure, Dr. Vani. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I can't wait to see the rest of your journey unfold, and I'll be watching closely.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been an absolute pleasure being on the show, and I loved every moment, and I love talking about Ayurveda, and I just hope that, people would look at their health differently now. Yeah,
it's so powerful, isn't it? And that's a lasting comment for everybody out there. Take care of your health, and it's both your physical and mental, and the Ayurvedic way is a completely holistic approach. So it's a great place to start, or a place for people who've already been following it to kind of continue their education, because we can always learn more, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Lisa Victoria. I'm your co-host from across the pond. My other host, John, is in America, so a bit far away from the UK. So I'm your co-host for today. I'm Lisa Victoria. And if you want to reach out to me, you can get me at Shine, SHINE, at lisavictoria.co.uk. And if you love what you've heard, you can find us on Apple, Google, or Spotify, or anywhere else where you get your podcasts. Until next time, I wish you health and happiness, and lots of exploration on the Ayurvedic route. Take care.